grab a cup, settle in, and turn it up. It's time for a couple of drips. Coffee, conversation, and occasional quips. Here's your host, Chris Granger.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 3, all the threes, 33 and a third, couple of drips. And the reason I'm making that joke is that today I am with a guy who probably sees most of my income.
I wish.
Especially around Record Store Day. Please welcome from Fish Records, Peter Morgan. Hello, Peter. How are you doing?
Very well, Chris. Good to be here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. So, Fish Records, not just a record shop.
No, it kind of started off as that, but we kind of morphed into a bit of gig promotion, booking agent, and we've also got a small record label, although...
Very nice.
Although we managed to launch that with brilliant timing with the releases in January 2020. Just as the world was wanting. So I do have a large lockup of vinyl of certain titles at the moment. But yes, we kind of horizontal integration across a lot of areas.
Brilliant. So the record store came first, but did you start online or did you start as a shop?
Well, what happened, a friend of mine, Neil Pearson, who founded Fish Records in 1999 as an entirely online...
All right.
Partly lifestyle business, but also this is probably when Amazon Marketplace and such like were in their infancy, if around at all. And he was into a lot of American singer-songwriter artists and couldn't get hold of them, so was getting them direct from the artists in the States. So started stocking all of those, and they were on Fish Records. And I was a customer of his because we had similar tastes. And he was also helping a guy called Alan Surtees run the Shrewsbury Folk Festival at the time. And then Neil decided to go into kind of artist management and promotion and went working for EFTUS, which is the English Folk and Dance Society, which is in Cecil Sharp House in Camden, and said, I'm closing down Fish Records. And I was self-employed and whatever. I thought, that's a shame. We went and had a coffee, and kind of 2 hours later, I was leaving his house with 10,000 CDs in the boot of my car.
CDs, so the CDs you were in the middle of the CD thing rather than the vinyl thing at the time. Yes,
because this would have been 2012 that I took over Fish Records. It was entirely CDs at the time. I suddenly I thought...
For any of our younger listeners, CDs.
A bit like coasters.
The things I still buy from charity shops and other people foolishly give away, like they gave away their vinyl in the 80s.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a customer this morning about CDs will be worth something one day, and I was thinking I need to rent another lockup to put all these away and just close the door for 10, 15, 20 years.
Absolutely,
Or give my kids the combination.
Mint in box,
And so, and then I thought, how does he spend all his time just running an online record business? And then I realised he'd set it up 13 years ago, and what was sitting behind it, you needed a PhD in HTML coding just to load one CD. So I ended up getting somebody to totally redo it, and I could effectively run the online business while doing the day job and other things. But then vinyl started coming around, circumstances fell into place. My daughter was moving back home to do a PhD, so could kind of help out in the shop during the week, and a small unit became available, which was pretty reasonable. So we moved into Stone, which is where we are now, and we've just renewed the lease for another 5 years.
Oh, brilliant. Well, so that's very good news.
So that was 5 years ago. We got a physical bricks and mortar shop.
So is a lot of this kind of renewed interest in vinyl down to things like Record Store Day? Is that, as an independent record store, is it a help or is it a real pain?
Well, there is a lot of debate because there is a kind of private Facebook group of all the participating record stores in Record Store Day, and there's those that kind of rail against it, that it is so awful and kind of it causes shortages in vinyl and whatever. We've only ever found it to be entirely positive. I mean, one, in terms of just turnover, we do December's turnover by 9 o'clock in the morning on Record Store Day. It does generate some interest and additional footfall later in the year, and kind of the publicity that goes with it across Six Music and other things and general press. It is annoying sometimes when there's customers that there are customers, we've done kind of 5 years of Record Store Day now, and there are customers I've seen only ever on Record Store Day, and they would consider themselves loyal, whatever customers, but I literally never.
You know, that's because they spend so much money on Record Store Day that they can't come back for a year. I won't tell you how much I spent this year.
Yeah, but we find it entirely positive. I mean, it is a difficult balance to, we've still got boxes of stuff left over from the first Record Store Day we did. I thought the fall, it's bound to sell.
Yeah.
No, if you want, I'll do you a deal on 4 live albums. And then other things like this year's Record Store Day, Mr. Ben picture disc. Who the hell is going to want a Mr. Ben picture disc? So I got one in. It went straight away.
Got in front of me. It was the chap in front of me.
And then there was this other customer that was desperate for a Mr. Ben picture disc. That I couldn't get it.
Yeah, no. And you said, I'll get that for you, no problem. No, next thing is it's 90 quid on eBay. Never mind. So, I mean, how do you decide what you're going to order in for Record Store Day? As you said, that must be really difficult to try and sort of second guess what people want.
Yeah, I mean, we're not allowed kind of rules of Record Store Day, and we have to sign up to a code of conduct, or otherwise we get kind of drummed out the brownies. The lists are published in advance with a big bit of hoo-ha, so we can say to people, what would you like us to try and get in for you? We can't make sure it's there for you, so we do that.
Yeah.
And also it's just kind of, what I know and what I like. But the list, and particularly this year, can be so wide and such breadth.
Yeah.
There are artists and whatever on there that I have just never heard of.
Yeah.
And we're not big enough really to take a punt and just go, right, we'll
get everything.
We'll get at least one of everything. But there are record stores, and I know one's in
You can
Stoke.
order things in if people ask, but you can't hold them for them,
That's
can
right.
you? That's
So
against the rules.
Yeah, so it's first comes, first serve. And so you'll get one customer that you'll go, I desperately want a copy of anything. No, I'll get one in. Nobody else is going to want that. And then, of course...
And then it goes 9 o'clock.
Yeah, the third person in the queue is after...
Yeah, and the person comes in later and says, you said you were getting it in for me. Yeah.
I mean, usually... except with the really popular ones, we can, through the Record Store Day group, kind of get bits and bobs after the day for people, but but obviously can't guarantee it. And I think part of that...
Yeah, you did that for me this year. You got the Art Blakey one for me after.
But there are, part of the fun is that, but there's a young girl in Stone, which Taylor Swift was one of the ones this year, and she was kind of desperate for it. And I could see she was about 9th in the queue, and we had 5 copies, and I was just trying to work out, Taylor Swift fan? She got the last one, and I was so pleased for her because I bet. Because she dragged her mum out of bed at about 5 o'clock in the morning to be there.
That's what I love about Record Store Day, I have to say. It's even if I didn't walk out with anything, and when I come to your shop, Pete, it's not likely that I walk out without anything. I even came back about 4 days later and spent nearly as much again. But what I love about it is the other like-minded people in the queue. And although you're like, don't be buying the record that I want to be getting, don't be getting that record. It is nice, and you're asking people what they're after and that. I mean, as you say, I never thought that Mr. Ben would go, but I was pleasantly surprised to go back later on in the day and find that Donna Summer was still there. So
but there is always ones. There's a couple of guys, and they always used to be the first in the queue, and they're really peed off now that there is a guy that takes great glee in making sure he's there before them, and they've got this competition now, but they still can't, and they're going to be there 2 days before eventually because they're kind of, but they never let on.
Some of the guys were there from like 5 a.m. this year.
The front of the queue guy, AD, he was there at 4:30.
Wow.
Which is kind of, and so next time I'm pretty sure, because the other guys turned up at 4:45.
Yeah,
he's gonna go. All right, they're gonna be at 4:30, so I'll be there at 4.
That's insane. So I'm surprised they don't get arrested. Quite frankly,
I mean, at least it's Stone. So actually, at kind of 4 a.m. But people are queuing up outside.
I mean, my mate Stu came down from Liverpool, and he said, "I'm leaving at 6:30," and I went, "That's a bit late."
Yeah. But people are queuing from the early hours. hours outside,
Yeah.
you know, Piccadilly Records in the Northern
Yes.
Quarter in Manchester.
Yeah.
You got to be brave soul to start you with
Yeah.
your deck chair at 2 in the morning, you know, on a Friday, you know, the early hours of a Saturday morning after a Friday night in the Northern Quarter, and you're there with your flask and your camping chair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to explain to people I'm here for the soundtrack of Mr. Ben on Picture This.
Brilliant. I've actually got that now.
I know.
I had to track it down. Well, what happened with that? I was a bit annoyed about that because they released it and it was very limited copies. And then the label suddenly started flogging them at 25 quid again each. So they'd obviously done a second run.
They are sometimes, I mean, and that's what pees off some of the record shops and some of the old hands that have been doing record store days right from the beginning, is that you get something that's released now for record store day.
Yeah.
And then actually the label just release a different version in a different colour vinyl 6 months later or 18 months later. I mean, last year, but one. I mean, Noel Gallagher's kind of greatest hits, Flying Birds, was a record store day release and then was released in full the following Friday.
An exclusive,
But it was in green or something.
Yeah. I mean, that is the nice thing sometimes, is if you can go down to Record Store Day and you can pick up these limited colours or limited editions or whatever. But I think like the Mr. Ben, when they quite obviously say this is a Record Store Day exclusive and then they just press a load more later on.
I'm not sure what label that on, because I mean it's usually the majors that are the guilty culprit, because I mean major record labels will see a golden goose and shoot it right between the eyes, which is what they're doing with the vinyl revival to a certain extent, is just the back catalogue prices they are pushing through the roof. Some new releases you cannot just fathom how they've priced, because I get people coming into the store who are buying a record token for their daughter or something and go, how much is a record? And I go, anything
up to 40 or 45,
20 quid or 60 quid. The new Lucas Nelson release, Willie's Boy, 20 quid on vinyl,
perfectly reasonable.
Taylor Swift repressing, $59.99, and that's only because I tried to keep it below 60 quid.
It's the same with everything. I mean, video games have gone the same. You know, a new video game a few years ago was 35, 40 quid. You're talking $59.99 now for, you know.
You know, and they've reissued all of Paul Weller's back catalogue, and
brilliant,
and that's all over 50 quid. I mean, I know he's got a lot of kids, but you know, there's no logic as to why that should be more than anything else.
No, I think we'll do the coffee now. Actually, it's probably a good a time as any. Wish I'd put my glasses on so I could see the idents on the desk. Actually.
All together now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Coffee time, it's coffee time. It doesn't matter if it's your place or mine. Coffee they call the wine of therapy. Brewed in a vine is better than tea.
Coffee time, fantastic. So, Pete, what are we drinking?
Apparently, and it's pronounced Jario Oscilia, which is a Colombian blend.
Yes, it is. And it's from Cartwheel Coffees, who we've not tried before. So this is I bought this one in especially for you coming over.
I'm honoured.
What do you think? Give it a good proper tasting.
It's very good, actually. It's very good.
It's nice. How would you describe it? I'm looking at the card. I'll see how close you get it.
You've now taken the card away from me, so I can't. That it has flavours and essences of. It tastes like very good strong coffee.
Yes,
which
it's
is
actually quite a light roast, but it's a white wine fermentation process. Oh, I've just found the flavours. There we are on the top of the card, right in front of me. White grape, green apple, and castor sugar. According to that. Green apple. I can get green apple, actually, if you properly spray it on the tonsils. Bit of green apple in there.
Possibly.
Bit of citrusy.
I'm not sure about the white grape, and I'm not sure how you can have white grape and castor sugar in the same... Because wouldn't you go down a dry route with a white grape rather than a sweet route? Perhaps that's me. That's me showing that I drink more wine.
Maybe that's
wine than I drink coffee.
What you taste at the start, and then if you move on to green apple and then castor sugar at the end.
Right.
Either way, it's giving me hiccups, which is great.
And I don't think I've eaten caster sugar straight since I was about
No,
three.
I mean, maybe Demerara,
About
but-
three when my mum was cooking.
But it's very nice anyway. It's very smooth.
It's very good.
It's
very good.
apparently. I've put the card down now. I regretted that. The Castillo lot was exposed to a dry aerobic fermentation of 30 hours before being dried on raised beds to reach 20% moisture content. The coffee is then placed inside grain pro bags for 80 hours before being returned to raised beds. So I would say that is a white wine fermentation process that is referred to as.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It says on the card.
All right. So that's where you get the white grape bit
That's
from.
where you get the white grape, or where you should do from. Well, they do call coffee the wine of Araby.
Yeah, I'm a red wine man myself. But
I'm a red wine man myself. I can't. I find white wine terribly acidic. While we're on coffee and wine, then what's your taste with wine?
I do. I mean, I really like the big, robust kind of Riojas and things like that. But to
Nice Chilean Rioja, very
but
nice.
to a certain extent, kind of, if one needs to function the following day, a kind of 14.5% red is probably a bit too bold. So I tend to more drink something like a Chilean Merlot or something like
Nice.
that.
Chilean Merlot is very nice.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm a sort of Malbec and
Yeah.
Pinot Noir, which I'd never tried Pinot Noir until I saw the film Sideways.
Right.
And then I thought, they're going on about this, I better try it. And I've tried good ones and bad ones, but I think probably a nice Argentinian Malbec is probably
very good.
my thing now. Oh, we go from coffee to wine. That was very good. One of the things I meant to ask you before we did the coffee time thing, moving back to Record Store Day for a second, is do you think it's generally been good, or do you think some of the labels are kind of using it as and this is a question we've had a couple of questions sent in from Jamie Summerfield and Dave Deakin, who've been on previous episodes. Jamie wondered, do you think that it's more about money for the record labels?
Inevitably, to a certain extent, but I mean, let's not be, precious about it. It's about money for the independent record stores to, keep their heads above water as well, So, but they just need to be careful that they don't push it too far. I mean, to be fair to Taylor Swift, she was kind of a worldwide ambassador for Record Store Day, and her reach to a different demographic is only going to be a good
Absolutely.
thing
Introducing a new generation.
So she is not my style of music, but as a kind of ambassador, businesswoman, role model, I
if she shifts some physical media, all the best.
Yeah, I take my hat off to her. And I know the majors have flooded some of the lists, and it's harder for smaller independents to get on the list. Although we put out Fish Records put out a vinyl release which got listed for Record Store Day. You have to go through a few hoops to get approved, but actually, as long as you're willing to do that, it's not a problem.
So, is it chaos in the build-up to Record Store Day?
It is in a shop the size of ours, because as you'll know, Chris, it is an extremely small one-room shop that is, as we've grown over the last 5 years, is kind of stuffed to the ginnels on a regular time.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly get several hundreds additional releases that you've got to find space to put.
Yeah.
So suddenly...
And there's already boxes under the counters, isn't there?
So stock needs to be moved elsewhere. So basically I'm driving round with kind of all the second-hand stuff in my car for 4 days or whatever in order to take it. But it's kind of... As soon as Record Store Day happens, then, by 9 o'clock, we can look a bit like a Russian market in terms of you get the people that arrive at 10 and go, oh, it's Record Store Day, isn't it? What have you got? And you show them this little...
Here are the scraps.
Here's the one bot. Didn't you get much in? And we go, well, yeah, we did. So, but I mean, because deliveries start arriving kind of 4 weeks before...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought
I think because of the production.
I had this image they all turned up on the Friday night.
No. I mean, so they're arriving well in advance partly because of the production schedules, and I also think because of the capacity bit for the distributors.
Yeah.
So if I think I've got that problem in my little shop, if you're kind of proper distribution with your warehouse, or a lot of the majors are using other distribution companies that are all coming out of the same warehouse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the capacity issues for them is kind of...
Do you always get what you order?
We've never not got something that we've asked for. We've been knocked down on quantities sometimes. So you ask for half a dozen and you get a couple.
Yeah.
But we've never not got anything. I think sometimes because we all have our individual reps that we deal with, and you kind of make sure you're nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Butter them up a little bit.
Nice to them, because some of the majors will work on basically the turnover that you do with them. So somewhere like Piccadilly Records is going to get a bigger allocation than I am, which is absolutely fair and legit. But also, because of that relationship with the reps, I make sure I don't take the mick and kind of go, can I have 20 or 30 of those, when I know that that's totally unreasonable, although I know I could shift 20 or 30 of them.
Yeah. The things, you said earlier about, a couple of things you got left from the first record store day. How do you make that selection? How do you decide what to get in, and when has it gone horribly wrong?
The fall was where it went horribly wrong, because I didn't sell any, and I've still got them 5 years later. And anybody that even shows the vaguest of interest, I'm offering a bulk deal. Anybody that takes it out of the box is going, I can do 5 different ones for, and they go, oh, it's live. I never liked live albums or what, and it's weird and strange stuff. So I'm kind of going, they released Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous. The original Live and Dangerous album was a collection of a number of concerts spliced together, where they did the one from the Hammersmith Odeon, the entire concert, which is basically the same set list. And, and Live and Dangerous, is one of the great rock live albums. I thought, that's bound to shift.
Yeah.
No. Do you
really
want a
weird.
Copy of Live and Dangerous? Because I've got a couple you can have. And it is odd. And then sometimes you do get the chance to kind of have a bit of a restock if the labels have got anything left. They email you on the Monday and you go, well, I shifted all of those on Saturday. So,
I'll definitely get some more.
I'll get some more now. And then nobody
comes for them.
Nobody comes for them again. So there was a Pogues B-sides that I kind of went, that's still got, that I've not been able to shift from last record store day.
No, I must admit, once I've got it in my mind that I want to get something on record store day, if I don't get it on record store day, I do generally tend to hunt it down.
Yeah.
And tend to, no, I can't be satisfied. I'm still looking for the Tomb Raider soundtrack from a few years ago on the gold triangular vinyl. So obviously record store days, the success of it is largely down to the vinyl revival. Did you see that coming?
Only slowly, as I say. So we opened up 5 years ago. And it had kind of taken place, and Record Store Day had been going for a number of years.
Yeah, I can't remember I did watch a documentary. I can't remember when it started.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy called Graham Jones who works for Proper Music Distribution, who's written he did a video and a book called Last Shop Standing, which was about the death of the record shop.
Yeah.
And then just as I was opening my record store, he released a book called Vinyl Revival, and it listed every bricks and mortar record shop that was listed. And we managed to kind of get across the wire. So we're in that book. And actually, he had a few of stock left, so we were giving them away as opposed to, for those people that didn't want Record Store Day beer, they could have a copy of the Vinyl Revival. So I think that's when it reached its peak. But obviously...
Yeah, I have a copy of that.
Obviously, it had been going before, but we were kind of noticing a demand for it, and hence the record store. But even in the 5 years we've been going, when we opened 5 years ago, it was men of a certain age kind of primarily telling me how big their record collections were, and into certain music, a lot of prog rock and things like that.
So I've got 5 copies of this album. Now this is the Portuguese pressing, and it's got a very slightly different logo on the back.
Yeah, and those are the ones that come in now and look at the new vinyl and go, well, of course, these are all repressings. And they rootle through the second-hand stuff, and you go, well, you just put out a Beatles, that's a repressing. They sold quite a lot, But now the demographic is totally changed. A lot of young women, young people buying what they consider their classics, which makes you feel really old because it's Oasis, Nirvana. Although our best-selling record in the shop is Rumours, Fleetwood Mac. We shift at least.
I probably could have guessed that.
Yeah, we shift. Every Saturday we'll shift. half a dozen copies of Fleetwood Mac Rumours.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Wow, as many as that.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it is a good album.
It is a great album.
Of course, I have the original pressing on the coloured label. With
I have a cassette version that was pressed in Greece that I bought from some dodgy person that used to sell cassettes in the student union in Leeds during the early 80s.
So, I mean, what do you think the reason behind the vinyl revival is? What do you think?
I think it is something about the artifact. I mean, I don't know about you. Did you have a Kindle?
I didn't have a Kindle. I had a tablet with the Kindle app on it.
I mean, I had a Kindle. That was it. I was going to have all my books on Kindle.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And kind of, I'm not sure where my Kindle is anymore. And
Battery's probably gone.
I've now got piles of books, next to my vinyl of the kind of stuff I have yet to read.
Yeah.
But it is that kind of artifact, that feeling of it. I think also sitting down and listening to it, that music didn't become a just background that you put on the Spotify list, play me the list for cooking spaghetti bolognese list.
Definitely.
But a lot of people will have, and the younger generation, they'll have their Spotify subscription that they listen to whatever on when they're doing stuff or in the car, and then they have the stuff that they sit down properly and listen to on a Sunday afternoon or in an evening and go through, look at the liner notes, and that's part of the experience. That's
absolutely.
That's how I spent my sad teen years, with me and my mate from next door not talking to each other, just sat on our bedroom floors reading the LP covers.
I mean, I did subscribe to streaming services for about 12 months, and I found it was at the expense. I'd listen to stuff in the kitchen, and it was at the expense of me actually sitting down and enjoying the music.
Yeah.
And I got this sense of, because everything was available, nothing had any value. I found that sitting down and listening to a few things that I really wanted to give my time to meant a lot more to me than just constantly having noise on in the background kind of thing.
Yeah, I've never... You've been not surprised to know I've never subscribed, because I've basically been running Fish Records ever since before any of Spotify or any of the others took thing. But I used to I've still got it, a kind of iPod with all the stuff loaded on it, and then I had my own playlists, but at least they were my own curated playlists, so a bit like our
modern view of the mixtape,
the mixtape. And I even sadly used to do that and burn them onto CDs, so I had them in the car, and if I was going to a festival, I'd burn all the people that are going to be playing the festival as I drove to it. But I've never subscribed to any of the lists.
I think that was a big problem with the record industry, wasn't it? Everyone sold their record collections because CD was the new thing, and CD was and everyone started buying CDs, and the record industry thought, we can make everyone buy their record collection again. And then CDRs came out, and suddenly you could get a perfect digital copy of the music for free. Yeah. And they kind of shot themselves in the foot. So I think the record industry must certainly be glad about the return to vinyl, about the return to slightly less perfection but more sort of time and enjoyment. And it is that thing. I mean, record cover art has improved vastly since the vinyl revival.
Yes. Well, you've got space to put it, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, because vinyl sales now outstrip CD sales. It was sometime this year. It was the first time it happened. But you kind of wonder at what point that they're going to go, is there any point pressing CDs anymore, which they got to with vinyl, because we had that big gap in the 90s when things weren't issued on vinyl that are now all available on vinyl. So I'm a huge Springsteen fan. And he brought out the box set with all his 90s releases that were never available on vinyl. But you're going to reach that point with CDs, because soon as whoever made the decision to strip CD players out of cars basically shot the CD.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I still buy new CDs, but I buy a lot of. I bought 31 from the charity shop in Eccleshall the other day, because they actually had some stuff that I'd been after for years, and couldn't get it. So I'm still in that kind of buying. And I think people are going to regret getting rid of their CD collections.
I mean, we sell so few CDs in the shop. Yeah. In the physical shop, I mean, a handful, and it's a handful to one or two customers that I know by name. Online, we still sell more CDs than vinyl online, but I mean the online sales have fallen, and we also the B word, we used to sell about 35% to Holland, Germany, Denmark, kind of Northern Europe, and that's just fallen off a cliff.
Wow. So we talked about reissues and repressings and things. How do you feel about this half-speed mastering thing?
I should explain. I'm sat here surrounded by Chris's kind of massive technology, and I am not a technology or hi-fi or whatever nerd, so I actually don't know. Because actually, I'm not sure I would pay the premium to have the half-speed master that may or may not sound
Have you heard many of them?
No, because I won't pay the premium that you get for them.
I bought a couple from your shop.
I know. Well, that's why we stock them for those people that have those wonderful systems. I'm playing mine off a relatively cheap.
I meant to ask you what your record
setup.
player is, actually.
Oh God, it's an Audio Technics with Bluetooth speakers, which is kind of and I'm sitting in a relatively small room in a house that I share with other people, so I can't have it on it.
Did you ever go for the full get into being a whole audiophile with all the hi-fi and everything? Did you ever?
No, I've never. I'm not a technical person, so I kind of wouldn't have that. And I kind of always, I spent a lot on music, but not actually the stuff that you play it on, as long as it was kind of good enough. And I mean, and back in my youth, the kind of music I was playing, well, shit, you don't need a great hi-fi to be playing Stiff Little Fingers at full pelt.
Yeah. No, I mean, they say that music lovers buy a hi-fi system to make their music sound good, and audiophiles buy your music to make their hi-fi system sound good.
Well, wasn't that meant to be when the CD came out that it was everybody bought that Dire Straits Lavoa Gold or whatever, wasn't it?
It was Brothers in Arms was the first one. Yeah, which I've now got on half-speed remaster. I've got the original CD.
Was it you that we sold that one to?
Yes, it was.
Oh, jolly good.
And I've got the SACD as well.
Right.
Can I tell the difference between the regular CD and the SACD? No.
Yeah.
But the half-speed remaster's got a very nice certificate in it.
Right. Well,
Do you know about the process of it? What happens?
I assume they re-record it at half speed.
Yeah, well, for anyone listening who doesn't know, when you cut the master for a record, you have a stylus cutting into a disc with a coating on it, and that rotates at a certain speed, and the stylus has amplifiers on it to push the stylus around to do the cutting. And that runs at a certain speed. Now, if you're doing a 16,000 hertz, like a cymbal off a cymbal, that's got to move 16,000 times per second, which means that the cutting head is working very, very hard to do that. If you run the tape at half speed, so they had in Abbey Road, they've got some specially adopted German tape machines that run at half speed. So if you do that, you're only cutting an 8,000 hertz thing, so it's the stylus is only having to move half as fast.
Prompts the obvious question: is why don't they therefore record it at quarter or eighth?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Eighth
I
speed?
think it's because the
they can sell you another version. Then.
Well, I think the technicians have to sit there listening to it, and there does become a problem when you get too slow. Because problems with the low frequencies.
Yeah, and long exposure to Dire Straits is probably some
steady.
There's probably some health and safety issues involved. Yeah.
But the engineers said that it is horrendous to sit there listening to it, because you have to monitor the whole recording, and it's horrible to listen to the whole album being cut at half speed. But so it supposedly has some things, but it causes other problems as well, like you using high pass filters and low pass filters to filter out certain frequencies when you cut in a record, because you don't want the needle to jump out the groove on some of the low notes. Well, obviously, if you're running at half speed, all the frequencies change, so you have to master it differently. So it's a complicated process, but whether or not it does the premiums or not, I've got quite a few of them. Right. They do sound very good. Whether they sound better than I would have to go back to the 80s and get an original pressing of the Dire Straits in order to...
and it's always...
So-
we get customers that say that come in and only look at the second hand because they go, the vinyl, that stuff is a lot better than the newer stuff, which is absolute... I was told I could swear bollocks.
Yeah.
Because in the 70s, and when they were selling a lot of vinyl, they started making it thinner and thinner.
Some of the 80s stuff is like flexi discs.
Yeah. Where now everything is 180 gram. You just pick up one out of the second hand rack and one out of the new rack, and you can just tell instantly.
Yeah.
And so it's absolute rubbish. Most of the stuff, the newer and reissues, is far, far better quality.
I do like the reissues, I have to say, although I've got a lot of original records.
Because most of the second-hand stuff that we've got in stock was stuff that was pressed in the 70s and 80s.
And the mastering desks have got better, the software's got...
Absolutely. I mean, I've still got all my old vinyl that I bought in the 70s and 80s, which is absolutely fine and serviceable, but there is kind of inverted snobbery around
there is.
Everything,
Yeah, was it on, what they said on High Fidelity, original release, not re-release Frank Zappa albums.
Yeah. For some reason, my wife and the kids were out the night before we opened Fish Records on the Saturday, and I spent the Friday night before I opened Fish Records rewatching High Fidelity on DVD. I was kind of thinking, have I become that? But I sometimes, do want to do the kind of...
definitely.
The jack, whatever, in terms of when people kind of ask about, have you got any whatever, or you can just go, no. Why would we? Because they're shit.
Definitely. Or you take them around the shop with a pile of records and go, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, me and my daughter used to kind of she would see how many customers didn't know Frank Turner, that she could sell a Frank Turner record to. And I would do the same with Jason Isbell, and we'd have a kind of competition as to kind of who we could sell these to. And they probably got them home and have never played them since, but yeah.
Fabulous. How do you feel about the... I can't believe I'm going here. How do you feel about the cassette revival?
I had cassettes because post-vinyl, and then I kind of was a student in the early half of the 80s, early jobs post-university, moving flat and everything, and then a car that had a cassette player. Yeah. So I bought pre-recorded cassettes and I had quite a collection.
I think I had a cassette player as a kid before I had a record player, actually.
Likewise, when those... They used to call them clubs, but you could join and you had to buy, whether you're going to have the album
like
of
the Britannia Music Club.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I got all my 4 cassettes for however much.
That's right. For your introductory offer.
Yeah, I remember having a Who one, Black Sabbath one, and Thin Lizzy Jailbreak all on tape and stuff like that. And then we bought a house in Spain about 15, 16 years ago. So I shipped all my cassette collection out to Spain and thought, this will be a really good idea. Never played it. We sold the house a few years ago, and I hate to say it, that cassette collection, it was in a skip somewhere in southern Spain. And then people started coming in and going, have you got any cassettes? And I was going... And then people started issuing new cassettes. Frank Turner's got one out, Skinny Lister, Billy Bragg. We've bought those, and nobody will buy the new ones, but they're coming in. I sold a Chumbawamba cassette this morning for £3, and it's the few cassettes I had left I didn't take out. I dusted off from home and threw them in a box for a few quid each, and they're going like hotcakes, and I have no understanding or perception why. They were brilliant. Shit and annoying.
The first time round.
The first time round. CDs were a very good thing. Yeah, rewinding the things or nearly crashing your car as it ate your cassette. Yeah, no.
Brilliant. Would you like another cup of coffee, Peter?
That would be very nice, thank you.
Well, I think we'll go and get another cup of coffee.
Chris never has a second cup of coffee at home.
Peter, I meant to ask you, what was your first ever record that you remember buying?
My first kind of proper record, Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, okay.
As a Christmas present, but a requested Christmas present. But that would be for my first kind of adult. Although I can remember, in terms of that's LP, in terms of vinyl, it would have been Sweet 7-inch singles.
Oh, okay.
Hellraiser, Wigwam Bam. They were my first live concert in Victoria Hall in Hanley when I was 11.
Wow.
And I went with my elder brother and sister, and they were late on because they'd been on Top of the Pops that night because it was a Thursday. And I
Nice.
thought it was amazing, this lighting display, and like look at it now, and it was about the level of a school disco.
Brilliant.
But, you know, Brian Connolly in a red jumpsuit, you know, you kind of can't knock it, really. Well, no, a story on the suite. Last year, I went on holiday to Vienna, and because of cancelled flights to Nashville, we'd gone business class because I had vouchers with British Airways, so I was in business class. And then this band turned up, and there was a guy with really long grey hair, and then the rest of the band who carried all the kit were like young pretenders. And they were collecting their kit at the baggage carousel, so I took a quick sneak. I said, who the hell is this? Facebook brilliantly got the thing back. It was the last surviving member of the suite, and they were on a European tour.
Fantastic. That's brilliant.
And he can still afford business class, so there you go.
So if you were stuck on a desert island and you could take 3 albums with you, what would be your desert island 3?
Joni Mitchell, Blue.
Oh.
Well, now it's kind of deciding. I know it's got to be a Bob Dylan, and I know it's got to be a Bruce Springsteen. Mm-hmm. And so Bruce Springsteen, controversial, it'll be Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Okay.
And then Blood on the Tracks, Bob Dylan.
Oh, nice. So this Bruce thing, Jamie messaged to say that he never got Bruce Springsteen. He doesn't get it. What's the interest?
I knew there was something there that I kind of, you know, that I worried about Jamie. Bruce Springsteen so it was around the river, and I had me and my friends, we were 17, and we got tickets to see them at Wembley Arena, the old little, you know, shed next door, and he had to cancel the tour because he'd collapsed on stage in the States because he was doing 4.5-hour gigs at this point. And it got pushed back, and then the river had gone kind of a bit more. And he'd only ever done the infamous Hammersmith Apollo gigs for the Born to Run.
Oh, yeah.
Which were the ones that, you know, the future of rock and roll, and it's Bruce Springsteen. And he wandered around London tearing these posters down and stuff like that, which are now available as DVDs and considered great. So we had tickets to see them, and they still did 4 hours, 2 sets. We ended up on the second row because the whole of it just turned into a dance hall. Clarence and Bruce were on the first row running up and down, and it was just the best live act I had ever seen. And there was a review of them on this tour, and the guy's going to have his 74th birthday in September. And there was a review of them from Murrayfield and said they still come across as a bar band that can't believe they're playing stadiums. Yeah. And they just look like they're having a hell of a time. They don't have any of this kind of crap like Royal Blood or whatever, you know, we are a rock band. Whatever. Yeah. We're going to have a hell of a time, and you can join us if you want.
That's fantastic.
And also, I think, because he's continued to record new music, so unlike the Stones and the Who, who are still like doing live acts, he has continued, and it's new. Yeah. So this tour that we've just seen was his last album was on it, and his music has kind of grown.
It keeps it fresh.
And it's grown and aged with his audience. So, you know, kind of Tunnel of Love was his first marriage breakup. The latest album is about the deaths, and he tells a story that he's Last Man Standing, his first rock band when he was in for 3 years as a teenager. He's the last surviving member of that band, and it is that kind of, he's grown old with his audience, but still, you know, he's a showman. He's still going to play Born to Run. He's not like Paul Weller, who goes, I ain't playing any of the Jam because I've moved on. Yeah. You know, but also, if you look at his live show, when he did Broadway, he kind of tells the story, and if you read his biography, is that kind of thing. He goes, you know, I was writing songs about, you know, cars and, you know, the working man. Yeah. He said, this is the only proper job I've ever had. This is the only job performing on Broadway where I've had to turn up 7 days a week to do a job. Yeah. And when I was writing the car songs, I couldn't drive a car. He said, I'm that good.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it.
Climb to fame, climb to fame. It's your chance to drop a name. Trying to outdo each other's kind of lame. One-upmanship is the only aim. Claim to fame, claim to fame, claim to fame, claim to fame. Oh, thank you very much.
So, Peter, do you have a claim to fame?
Very sadly, I can say I was a failed contestant on MasterChef.
Oh, well, that's very good.
But it was when it was MasterChef with Lloyd Grossman.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Back in the day when it was, they had regional, things, and not with the awful Greg Wallace.
What did you cook?
I cooked. It was pheasant. I can't remember, but I was actually, and it's a long time ago. It was in the kind of late 90s, and I actually probably wasn't that good a cook. And my only claim to fame is the guy that beat me went on to win the series. So,
okay.
So
So you weren't. If he was going to be the winner, then you were up against stiff competition.
Yeah, and I wasn't that good.
Were you a chef by trade at any point then?
No, but that's other than music. Probably that is my passion. I mean, until I owned a record shop, my kind of Christmas and birthday lists were music and cookbooks. Now they're just cookbooks.
Yeah. Do you find owning the record shop takes a bit of the pleasure out of the record thing?
No. Kind of
or is it like a child in a sweet shop?
Neil Pearson, who I said earlier kind of took Fish Records over from, he said you'll lose the attraction of kind of CDs and the opening of the new one. And I did with CDs because they were just piled up on my desk. And in those days, pre kind of list and stuff, you used to get sent free sample, of new releases. And so I just had stacks of them. Now it's vinyl. I've kind of know it's back and I'm kind of going, oh, should I take one of them for myself? Yeah. If I haven't sold them all by Saturday. Closing the shop on a Saturday, because Sunday afternoon is my vinyl listening part of the week. And so Saturday, when I close the shop in the afternoon, is kind of trying to restrict myself of how much of the stock that actually finds its way home.
Shall I break the seal on this?
Yeah. So, no, I think vinyl has bought
That's why
that
I stopped
back.
working in a camera shop.
Yeah, vinyl has bought it back, yeah.
So if you were in a band then, this is a question from, I can't remember if this is Jamie or Dave, but it's a good question. I think it was Jamie. If you were in a band, what would your role be?
I've had many midlife crises in my life, taking over Fish Records being one of them. But in a previous life, I was management consultancy and had my own company, and we sold it to a PLC. And on the day after I sold it, I went and bought the Mini Coopers had just come out. I bought a Mini Cooper and a drum kit. And so I had this drum kit set up in what?
See you as a drummer.
Set up. And the problem is I very quickly learned, and people always think, when they're getting people to clap along, at gigs and stuff like that, and everybody thinks I'm being a really miserable git when I don't. The reason being is I've realised I have no sense of rhythm at all. So I am the one clapping out of time with everyone else, so I don't, because it kind of, and I realised that with the drum kit. So it's now all bagged up in one of the back bedrooms, and my wife says I collect musical instruments. Because I'm looking around this room. But no, I mean, so I've got several guitars, a couple of banjos, an electric mandolin, stuff like that. But I'd only play for my own consumption because I'm not. Yeah,
I've been trying to explain, before I bought the electric guitar, I tried to explain to Kelly how the acoustic guitar doesn't do the things the electric guitar done. And now I'm looking at a nylon strung classical. And she's like, well, can't you do it on that? No, it's a different tone.
There is, but
why
also,
do you need 3 synths, Chris?
Yeah, well, but also with me is because I'm not very good at playing, but I still collect the instruments.
Yes,
but there is something about the male psyche, and that runs through to record shops.
Oh, yeah, obsession.
About collecting.
Yeah,
and so you've got to have the full set of.
You're a completist like me. You've got to
whatever it is.
Yeah,
and my wife.
Yeah, you see those Kraftwerk records over there. Got the entire set of colour vinyls in English and German.
My wife was a big Jam Paul Weller fan, so kind of was into the Jam and Style Council, early Paul Weller. She keeps telling me, why do you keep buying me the latest Paul Weller album? I go, but you've got to have the set.
They've got to have the set, yeah.
And she's kind of going, yeah, but I don't like the stuff he does now. I go, don't care.
Yeah, you've got to complete the...
So they're sat there in the cellophane at home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, I just bought the Clapton, the CDs of the Clapton at the Royal Albert Hall, because they've reissued the 24 Nights, which was one box set. They've now done 3. And they've done one. It's a double CD and DVD, and they've done one for the rock concerts, one for the classical, and one for the blues. And Kelly said to me, well, "Which ones are you getting?" Well, obviously all 3 of them.
I can't see Clapton.
No, it's all right. You can badmouth Clapton. That's fine.
Well, the only good thing he's done is that he ended up finding Rock Against Racism when he did his diatribe, and I just can't.
In the week he wasn't racist.
I just can't. Well, no, it was when he had his racist diatribe. They formed Rock Against Racism as a result of him having
to apologise to the people of Birmingham.
Yeah, I think he was, he was not himself at the time, but yeah.
During his alcoholic phase, I think.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, the Unplugged album is very good.
Let me have a look at the questions we've got here. What are the challenges of running an indie record shop?
Keeping your head above water. I mean, so today the shop was open and we did 80 quid in sales. That's not profit. That's that kind of.
I remember going in one afternoon and it was 4:00 and you said I was the first person you'd seen that day.
Yeah. So it's really up and down. I know I get a lot of people people of a certain age kind of go, oh, I'd love to run a record shop and whatever. I'm going, that's fine as long as you don't expect to earn a living from running a record shop. And I do a day job whilst running the record shop. So I work 6 days a week and kind of start at 7:00 working in order that I can open the shop on occasions. And the other thing is the cash outlay you've got to have because you've
got to have stock.
The stock builds up.
Nothing worse than going in somewhere and going, oh, we haven't got that in. No one ever asks for it. And you're like, well, I'm asking for it.
Well, and it's always the bloody case that you see a new customer and they go, you got any Pixies? No. You got this? No. Yeah, you go. We've got a load of... And because, they're increasing the vinyl reissues, the other releases, the whatever, the stock levels and the value of the stock, because it's vinyl now rather than CD, is going up all the time. So that ties up an awful lot of cash.
Yeah. And then you've got your insurance.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate that the shop is very small, the insurance... And part of the reason we don't do collectibles is because that would massively increase the level of insurance. Because actually, a break-in now, they'd need a big van and some guys with heavy muscles to shift enough of our vinyl.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, be like the Great Train Robbery.
To do anything. I mean, staff is an interest. My daughter used to do that when I did PhD, so I could keep the money in the family.
Yes,
and we made the decision to a certain extent when she finished that and wasn't able to work in the shop to actually reduce the opening hours rather than employ somebody to work in the shop. Although we get people every week coming in going, oh, can I have a job working in a record shop?
Do you find that the majority of people who shop there, they must be people go there on purpose rather than passing trade, especially where you are as well?
I mean, well, and especially because if we call customers the ones that actually part with any cash rather than come through the door. So yes, the customers that are people that have made a special trip there, either from far away or...
I was going to say, I know some guys come from Liverpool and that to come to your shop on Record Store Day. I mean, that must say something about...
Yeah, and people will travel over from the West Midlands and areas. We do get those that come into the shop that are walking past, the passing trade.
Of course.
Stone has a monthly farmers market, so you get a lot of kind of footfall who come in going... Oh, how long have you been here? And you go, 5 years. I wish I had more time and a record player, and then kind of walk out or go, apparently there's a bit of a revival, isn't there? And I go, lucky.
Do you want to buy one? I mean, which brings us up. We watched that documentary recently, didn't we? I told you about it, and they were talking about Crosley's in there quite a lot. I've written Crosley's down here just so we can go down that rabbit hole for a second.
One of the distributors we've got stocks and sells Crosley's, and I don't know whether they'd listen to this, but a bag of shit.
Groove diggers, we call them.
We've only ever had probably, in 5 years, about 8 new records that have come back in where somebody goes, this jumps or whatever. And on every single occasion...
Have you got a Crosley?
It's one of those, or even, a cheaper version, one of those suitcase.
They're all on the same, I don't know if you know, but they're all a standard drive unit from China. and all the Crosley, but they've all got this same standard one-piece drive unit, just dropped in a wooden box, basically.
Yeah, and we in the shop we haven't got a sophisticated setup, and we kind of replay it, and it's absolutely fine. So we're getting returned. So sometimes you'll see slightly more expensive things in our second-hand selection, and it's the ones that are the returned Crosleys. But you can't argue
I think
with
I might
them.
have bought a few of them.
You just have to give them their cash back and say, terribly sorry.
Yeah.
It's when they do a replacement and you go, I'll get another one for you.
Yeah.
And that comes back.
Yeah.
On a Noel Gallagher, I was up to the third and I went, look, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've now cost me more in Noel Gallagher releases than your bloody record player cost.
Yeah, no, I think I bought a couple of those where I've got them home from the second-hand bin. My favourite game, Cardigans. It's just like, well, this is new. Surely this has never been played.
There was a set, and that probably came from that. There was this elderly, genteel woman that used.
Oh, you said this. Who keeps bringing in?
Well, it was only for a certain period, for about 6 weeks.
Was it a husband or a son's
it
record
was a
collections?
son, and so they were really kind of quite cool, kind of sellable records, and they came in immaculate condition. One or two were still in the cellophane.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, they're my sons," and she used to bring kind of a box a week. And I thought, does her son know that she's selling it?
Gone away to university and he's going to come back and get a big shock.
Yeah, you know, or he's kind of working abroad or something.
Yeah, definitely. Fantastic. So the other side of your business, Peter, is live music and promotion. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how you got into it?
It partly got. Well, we got into it not long after we started doing Fish Records back in 2012. I was kind of spending a lot of time driving midweek to go to relatively small gigs and small venues. You know, I'm talking, kind of 80 to 200 type size, but driving to Birmingham, driving to other places. And realising, well, why don't we put these on locally and then I can kind of be in bed for, for 11:30 or what. And so we started putting stuff on in the Stafford Gatehouse, and downstairs at the Stafford Gatehouse, they've got the Met, which is basically, for those that don't know, it's a black box.
Yeah, the Malcolm Edwards Theatre.
Black box venue, which capacity seated is about 135. Yeah, I think Dan Walsh, who's kind of Dan the Banjo Man.
He's going to be on one of our episodes.
Well, I put Dan on in the Met several times, but also then touring folky artists and other stuff like that. Stafford is quite cliquey. Mm-hmm. And I got I think they've reformed it now, but it was the ex-Stafford Folk Club. Got in contact that I hadn't asked their permission to put on folk gigs in Stafford. I didn't know these people. I didn't know them to ask permission. And they said also, we've checked you out. Oh, okay. And so there was quite a good folk tradition or whatever in Stafford, but they never came to any of my gigs.
I hear we putting on folk gigs at our patch.
They never came to any of them whatsoever, because I think they were more into, proper folk clubs where, you kind of have the floor acts and, you wait, you have to sit there for 3 hours to listen to the artist that you've actually paid your 15 quid to go and see. And we didn't do that. So we struggled. And then they changed ownership. The council put it out to a trust that now runs the thing. And it was, you can lose money being a music promoter rather than not. I can cope with not making money.
Yes.
It's when I've signed a check to the artist, a check to the support act, and I've also had to write a check to the venue because the ticket sales were insufficient to meet the costs of just having the place. And you kind of go...
You probably paid an engineer as well.
You had to have the full package.
Yeah.
And so they had to run ticket office and everything.
Yeah.
And so it just became, I couldn't tell my wife kind of that gig we went to. You thought me buying Springsteen tickets for Copenhagen was a bit extravagant. Well, actually, that gig we were at in the Met on Monday night cost me more than that. Yeah. So I then bought my own gear and started putting them on in a pub in Eccleshall so I could cut out most of the middlemen and whatever. And then basically, because I wasn't bothered about making money, I could just... The whole of the ticket stuff went to the artists. The pub got the beer sales, and worked well. And I'm now waiting for the Crown Wharf Theatre in the centre of Stone.
Fabulous. We had Leo on a couple of months ago.
Well, I've kind of... My original background is I'm a qualified accountant, ex-management consultant. Yeah. So I help with a lot of the business plans and grant applications for Leo with it. And I'm kind of now waiting that we can book and do a few acts because it's literally, you can see it from our shop. And
Yeah, it's such a great facility.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it to open.
And
I was
also
kind of
it'll
gutted when I moved from Stone, actually, that because we used to be walking distance from it, and now we've got to get in the car.
and
you
it
know.
will, and also Stone pulls in from the other direction from Stoke rather than from Stafford,
Yeah.
and they're kind of more.
They like their music. I
Yeah.
mean, the number of years I spent going to open mic nights, and if you're not singing or playing, you know, you're reciting poetry or whatever, you know, Stoke is, for all the
Well-
bad press it gets, the massive entertainment.
Well, I mean, and everybody, not forget, but kind of, the heart of Northern Soul was Wigan, Blackpool, and Stoke
very
on
true.
and Stoke on Trent.
Very true. So would you say that's the favourite bit of would you say the record shop or the live promotion is more fun from the Fish Records kind of thing?
I think I like running the record shop when it's kind of busy, and
Yeah.
I think I said to somebody during lockdown, because we obviously had to shut down the shop for quite a while during the lockdown period, and I said I'd missed the company of strangers,
Yeah.
and it was just that somebody can come in that you never know, and you end up having a chat about, kind of some music or some gigs or whatever. I mean, you do get the kind of, as I was saying earlier, the kind of bullshit about the size of the record shop. Apparently, Oasis played the Wheat Chief in Stoke when they were
They did?
yes, but the Wheat Chief was obviously bigger in that day because I've met about 5,000 to 6,000 people that were at that gig, and they've all come through Fish Records. And I kind of keep, and then I met one guy who said he was the promoter for it and said he lost money. I thought, how the hell could you lose money?
Yeah.
I've met thousands that
I
went,
saw the Stone Roses in there, and there were about 15 people in.
and also the promoting bit, you can lose money doing it.
Yeah.
Some of the artists that you book and do whatever are absolutely lovely and great. And we used to, when we used to put on gigs, they used to stay with us and whatever. And some of them are still kind of friends, and particularly the American ones. I meet up with them when we're over in Nashville and things like that. Others, despite, they're struggling and only selling 20 tickets, can be divas. And, and you kind of think, why have I shelled out a lot of money to put this on when you're kind of clearly, just phoning it in and not bothered? But that's the minority. The others are great. I mean, and I do promotion as well in terms of booking acts for cross venues for small tours as well.
Yeah.
And that can be challenging.
Yeah. Biggest challenge of that?
Well, the main challenge is kind of because it's mainly North American acts that I'm booking, smaller North American acts. They've done previous tours and they've done venues and they've not sold out those venues. But the next time they come over, they say they don't want to play there because it's too small.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going, well, shall we? We're not going to move to a 500-seater now when you couldn't sell out the Kitchen Garden Cafe that's 80 seats, and seem surprised when, the levels. I mean, the challenges of touring are, especially from North America. And and you get ones that do it and realise they're doing it as a busman's holiday.
Yeah, of course.
And, that's the gig of it. But others that, somehow think they're going to, they're in the land of the Beatles and... Yeah, this is going to break them.
Talking of touring, is it Cologne you've been to recently, or was it
Copenhagen?
Copenhagen. I knew it was somewhere that began with C.
To see Springsteen.
To see that was where you saw Springsteen.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It was Anarchy time. They announced the European dates before they announced the UK dates. His UK dates seemed to look like they might coincide with Glastonbury.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't have Glastonbury tickets, so I thought, well, I'll book a Copenhagen there.
Yeah.
They then announced the UK dates, and so I could get to see him at Villa Park where he played, and then I also had the Copenhagen one, and he was playing Hyde Park 2 nights at Hyde Park, so I chose not to buy Hyde Park tickets at the time and could justify Copenhagen on the basis actually tickets in Copenhagen, flight and hotel was cheaper than tickets in Hyde Park, London hotel and a rail fare.
Yeah.
Then they announced that Frank Turner and the Chicks were going to be the supporting whatever, and I thought, I cannot not go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I ended up buying tickets over the odds because it sold out and went to Hyde Park, but I did go on my own because my wife said, I'm not seeing him 3 times.
Brilliant. You've got to do it sometimes. I did it a number of years ago, 2007 actually, for Genesis tickets. I ended up buying VIP tickets at the last minute, and I'm really glad I did, because it was the day they'd done G12. So they'd had a warm-up in the lunchtime, and then they were late coming on because they'd had to helicopter down from that. But the performance was so good that the live album that year was basically the Manchester performance.
I've always said to people, whatever the circumstance, I was chatting to somebody who's trying desperately to get Taylor Swift tickets and pay a fortune. I'm not going to get Taylor Swift tickets, but I said, just do it.
Yeah.
I said, I've only ever regretted
the gigs I didn't go to. I've never regretted spending 160 quid on that
not
ticket.
Getting tickets. I'm a big rugby fan as well. Yeah. And once Wales were going for the Grand Slam in Dublin, and I didn't go and buy tickets, and they won.
Of course.
And I didn't buy. Tom Petty did Hyde Park. I thought, well, now I'll go and see him another time. And of course, never did. And so, just do it, because I never went to see Springsteen on Broadway because I thought that's too expensive. Yeah. No, I regret that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favourite gig you've ever been to?
Favourite gig has got to be that first Springsteen gig at Wembley. The other one was Billy Bragg and Frank Turner were busking for Shelter one Christmas time, and Wilton Music Hall, which is the oldest surviving music hall, and it's near the Tower of London.
Oh, right.
So it was once on, in the city, and they did a gig, and you had to kind of go in there with ballot to get tickets. And my daughter, who was Frankie, was probably 17 then, got tickets. And so in a tiny little music hall, there was Billy Bragg and Frank Turner playing sets together, but they did one or two of their own songs, but also did, kind of classic busking songs, Black Veil and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's those gigs where you go, yes, I was there. So Springsteen, when McCartney came on and they pulled the plug in Hyde Park, I was there at that one. Or Billy Bragg's 30th at Hammersmith Apollo, and then Frank Turner came on for the encore, and I was holding my still 17-year-old daughter by the belt to stop her climbing on the stage, and he's doing I've got tickets for his 40th anniversary tour this autumn.
Very nice.
But I did, first time I saw Billy Bragg was 50 pence in one of the bars at Leeds University. I was in the main bar having a drink, went to the loo, and I met a guy off my course and said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "I'm going to see this guy called Billy Bragg." And I said, "I've never heard of him." He said, "Well, it's only 50p if you go in, in the Tartan bar." And I went in, and there he was with his amp. And whatever. But Andy Kershaw was our entertainment secretary at the time, and then went on to be his roadie and whatever. Well, and the one after that we had is Stuart Galbraith, who is now one of the major festival organisers.
I have a question here. It's an obscure one, and I don't know what it means. But this came from Dave Deacon, and it was, will he ever sell those Adele albums?
Oh, Adele.
He wrote Adele. He means Adele. Yeah. Will he ever sell those Adele albums? Will he ever sell those Adele albums, Peter?
I was looking the other day because Adele's last album, that's partly we had the shortage of she took up all the vinyl.
She took up all the vinyl, and none of the pressing plants
vinyl.
There's a backlog for small bands.
I kind of assumed, therefore, she must know the market with vinyl. Adele fans must want vinyl.
Yeah.
They don't want it in Staffordshire. So I came across it. I was looking for something else the other day, and I thought, what price can I put those out that I will be able to shift them? Although,
which albums is it? Is it all?
It's the last one, the 31.
30.
Yeah. Which was shit anyway.
Yeah. So, if anyone out there listening wants an Adele album or an Adele album, thanks for the typo, Dave.
Did you see Bill Bailey? He once said, "I'm going to do an Adele song. It's I'm really sad about my breakup, but I'm not going to mention it."
Yeah. It's like Roger Waters not mentioning that his dad died in the war. Right.
Oh, he's got a new one coming out, the Dark Side of the Moon kind of. His lockdown version.
He has, and behind that CD over there is a Roger Waters. He's done an EP. It's not Dark Side of the Moon, but he's done a Lockdown Sessions EP. There's about 6 tracks on, I think, which is the CD behind that CD.
He's got coming out on vinyl.
Yeah. The Dark Side, I think the Dark Side of the Moon re-release, it's got a few special editions of that coming out. I
used to love Pink Floyd. And kind of with pre-Springsteen obsession, and The Wall I thought was kind of seminal work, and me and my friends. And I remember there was a guy who he kind of won some school journalist award, and he was called Toby Young. He went on to do other things like set up free schools and be a right-wing whatever.
Yeah.
But he wrote this thing in the Telegraph slagging off the wall, and we as 3 students managed to get a letter published in the Daily Telegraph explaining why the wall was this seminal,
Brilliant.
classic piece of work.
Fantastic.
And then Roger Waters has just gone a bit funny.
Yeah, he has. He's gone a little bit off, hasn't he? Yeah. One of the best gigs I ever went to was the spur of the moment thing was just looking, and it was virtually not publicised, was that David Gilmour was doing 3 nights at the Royal Festival Hall. And he was just doing it to make a DVD, basically. And just happened to get a ticket, not thinking it would be anything. And he had a full orchestra and a choir, and it was absolutely one of the greatest nights of my life. And we waited outside the door afterwards, and I got to meet Michael Caine and Durga McBroom, who I didn't know I'd get to work with later on, Dick Parry, and didn't meet Gilmour, but met Rick Wright and met Gilmour's brother and his mom. And yeah, just absolutely insane night. And then had to travel down on the train for that. Travel back, and the next day my sister was graduating for a master's in the same hall, so I travelled down, travelled back, and then came back down in the car the next day, which was a bit mad, but there we go.
Yeah, no, I saw the wall first time round in Earl's Court.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Again, I was about 17. Yeah.
Was that the one with, because we just heard of the loss of Sinead O'Connor, was that the one that Sinead O'Connor was in the live performance of?
Not that I'm aware of, because this would have predate, because I mean...
That would have been the first time round, not when Roger, because Roger did it in
No, I'm old. This is, so I'm talking 1980, 81.
Yeah. Yeah, just before the final cut, before they all went their separate ways.
No, it was the first tour of it.
Yeah, fabulous.
And then
I bet that was amazing.
and that's when the final cut. That's when I stopped my Pink Floyd obsession.
Really?
Yeah, I don't own an album after the final cut.
Oh. So you didn't like any of the sort of 80s, like Momentary Lapse or Division Bell, or have you heard any of them?
Yeah, but no, it wasn't. No,
just
and I thought Final Cut was really because it's got to be, isn't it? Because Final Cut is referencing the Falklands War and
yes, yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's time for Dream Podcast.
Just a quick one here, Dream Podcast. If you could have a podcast or host a podcast and people being dead wasn't a problem and time travel and money were no object, who would you have on that podcast? What would be your dream one?
Oh my God, because you don't want to be really kind of thingy in terms of the obvious dead people. Kind of Nelson Mandela. But
yeah. But we'll have Hendrix and Jim Morrison. And, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It is. And actually, it'd probably be kind of politician. Like, yeah, like Nye Bevan or somebody like that. Yeah, kind of.
Clement Attlee.
Yeah, that kind of, to talk through. I'm reading a book at the moment about the NHS, 12 Great Battles that created the NHS, because it's the 75th anniversary, and I've been reading all the battles that he had at the beginning, and some probably somebody like that.
Nice.
Boxes or pants?
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 Boxes or pants? Boxes or pants?
Yes, it's boxers or pants. So, boxers or pants?
Definitely not boxers, but I don't know where kind of pants with a bit of a leg to them. But not.
So you get
they've got a name,
not the wide fronts, but the support, the sort of hybrid.
Yes, they have a name, but whatever Marks and Spencer's, because that's where you have to buy your underwear. It's the law.
I've just ordered some vests,
and in black, because that only colour, but definitely not. I've never got on with boxers. No. Either the dog or the shorts.
Yeah, no, like a bit of support. Yeah, sausage or bacon?
Sausage would be the first choice. Yeah.
Breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
TV or radio?
I'm a real radiophile. Radio. People kind of because, as I said, we sometimes get so few customers
Yeah.
in the shop, and I think people come in expecting music to be blaring out, and there's me listening
to Radio 4.
listening to The Week in Westminster on Radio 4.
I'm sorry, I haven't a clue.
Or Kitchen Cabinet or something like that.
Yeah. Black and white or colour?
Colour.
Curry or pizza?
Curry.
Croissant or brioche?
Neither. I'm not bothered about either, really. Don't really have a sweet tooth. It's the only vice I don't have.
You see, I'm breakfast and it's croissant. Hot dog or burger?
Burger, but I was saying to somebody the other day, is the only problem with burger is the bread bit.
Yeah.
All the stuff and the fillings
Disappointing
and
bread.
all
Yeah.
the... But if I could have the burger without the bread.
Oh, okay. Mars or Snickers?
Snickers. But
Snickers or marathon? Next one.
it would be marathon, but I
Yeah.
have to qualify that I don't eat them because my daughter has a severe peanut allergy.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? Analog or digital? Man who owns a record shop. Think very carefully.
Yeah, well, I'll say why I have so few customers.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Good. You're allowed on this show. Ketchup or brown sauce?
Brown sauce.
Good man. Night or day?
I'm now a day person, but I think by nature I am a night. But in terms of family and adapting, my partner that I've been married to for 30 years,
Yeah.
it's kind of we work. But I think I could quite easily revert to being a night
right.
person.
Yeah, I could as well. Sorry about this one. Oasis or Blur?
Oasis, without doubt.
Okay. Wrong, but I'll let you off. Vinyl or CD?
Vinyl.
Yeah. I knew. I just put that one in for you, really. Bath or shower?
Shower.
Mayo or salad cream?
Mayo.
Dark or light mustard? I get desperate here.
English mustard. So
English mustard, not the dark French.
No.
Okay. Tuna or salmon?
Are we fresh or tinned here?
Let's go fresh.
Tuna.
Okay. Beans or peas?
Peas.
Beans or cheese on your jacket potato?
Cheese.
And salt and vinegar or cheese and onion?
Cheese and onion. Yeah. They were easy.
I only used to ask boxers or pants, and I thought, I'm sure we
I
could
have very
expand this.
definitive views on some of these things.
It's when people go, well, you can say it's just one or the other. Don't think about it too hard.
And it's interesting, you mentioned Oasis. You get a lot of kind of snobby people come into the shop and go, oh, Oasis. I think it's quite fashionable, partly because the Gallagher brothers have been
Sure.
twats. But actually, and then they go, oh, no, I never liked the Oasis. And then you go, yeah, but those first two albums
Oh, yeah.
were actually brilliant. I said,
If they didn't change
everything
the band
after-
every album.
everything after that,
Yeah.
yeah. But actually, you can forgive a lot of people for those two albums because there's a lot of people that have done as good as stuff that was. See, and them playing Nebworth in '96, that's another one I regret that I didn't go.
Yeah. That was huge, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I quite like the...
kids got in the way.
Yeah. Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope you've enjoyed it.
I have.
And I hope you'll come back sometime.
Yes.
We'll maybe do a record store day special or something in the future. That might be quite nice.
That'd be good. Or you could, I don't know whether any of your stuff is portable. You could get out of bed in
I've
the
got
morning
portable.
and interview the queue.
I may well do that. That's a really good suggestion, actually. I do have a portable rig. That might be very good fun to do. Well, it's been a pleasure, Peter. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And hope to see you again at the record store very soon. Just before we go, where can people find you on social media?
Social media, we're at Fish Records UK. We're on Thread. We're on Twitter or X. Facebook, and the website is www.fishrecords.co.uk.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's great. And the shop is...
It's in Crown Courtyard in the centre of Stone, bang right in the centre, behind the library and the Crown Hotel.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Peter, and thanks for listening.
You've been listening to A Couple of Drips. The show was conceived and presented by Chris Granger and is a Cup the Mic production.